It's been an incredible 24 hours since the WHO made a startling admission that asymptomatic carriers of coronavirus or COVID-19, asymptomatic meaning those who may carry the virus but show no symptoms, have a rate of infection for other people that is, quote, very rare. What does that mean? It means if you don't show signs of the virus, you are not actually transmitting it to other people except for in extremely rare instances. It's a very important admission. Now, 24 hours after that statement was made in a live news conference, the WHO has walked back that, saying, the truth is we don't know. But the truth is, we do know. In fact, a separate study done 3 weeks ago confirms the very same thing, that the rate of transmission for asymptomatic carriers to the rest of the population is nearly zero. I'm Ben Swan, and this is Truth in Media. Welcome to the show. A lot to get to today. So I want to talk about the WHO and this news conference that was held on Monday. Essentially, one of the top people at the WHO who is studying infectious diseases was holding a press conference talking about coronavirus and made an incredible admission that the rate of infection from asymptomatic people to the rest of the population is very rare. Watch this.
The second part of your question is what proportion of asymptomatic individuals actually transmit? So the way that we look at that is we look at these individuals need to be followed carefully over the course of when they're detected and looking at secondary transmission. We have a number of reports from countries who are doing very detailed contact tracing. They're following asymptomatic cases, they're following contacts, and they're not finding secondary transmission onward. It's very rare. And that much of that is not published in the literature. From the papers that are published, there's one that came out from Singapore looking at a long-term care facility. There are some household transmission studies where you follow individuals over time and you look at the proportion of those that transmit onwards. We are constantly looking at this data and we're trying to get more information from countries to truly answer this question. It still appears to be rare that an asymptomatic individual actually transmits onward.
Now, why is this significant? It's significant because the entire economy in the United States and around the world was shut down because of asymptomatic carriers. The idea is simply that if you carry the virus and don't know it, you'll go out into the public, you'll go to bars and restaurants and to churches, and you will infect other people with this virus unknowingly, and therefore you put them at risk of dying from this virus. But the truth is, the data is not showing that. Now, within 24 hours of this startling statement being made by the WHO, the World Health Organization has now walked back that statement, saying it's actually not true. The World Health Organization officials on Tuesday walked back the comments below that were made on Monday after drawing criticism from epidemiologists across the world. Dr. Maria Van Kerkhove, head of the WHO's Emerging Diseases Unit, said Tuesday that asymptomatic spread is a really complex question, and much is still unknown. We don't actually have that answer yet, she said. I was responding to a question at the press conference. I wasn't stating a policy of WHO or anything like that. I was just trying to articulate what we know, she said in a live Q&A streamed across multiple social media platforms. And in that, I use the phrase very rare, and I think that's misunderstanding to state that asymptomatic transmission globally is very rare. I was referring to a small subset of studies. But the truth is, the statement she made was based on data. She said originally, the data is showing us that it is very rare that asymptomatic cases are causing the transmission of COVID-19 or coronavirus. Now she says, well, that's not official WHO policy. Now here's the question. Why is it not official WHO policy if the data shows that that is the case? Instead of saying, well, politically, we want to stick with what we've been saying all along, even though the data says something else. And by the way, speaking of the data saying something else, this is not the first time this has come up. In fact, 3 weeks ago, on May 24th, there was a separate study that was published that essentially showed 455 people were exposed to an asymptomatic carrier of coronavirus. And in virtually all cases, there was no transmission of the virus from the asymptomatic person to those 455 people. In this study, which was published in the National Library of Medicine for NIH, called A Study of Infectivity of Asymptomatic SARS-CoV-2 Carriers, quote, 455 contacts who were exposed to the asymptomatic COVID-19 virus carrier became the subjects of our research. They were divided into 3 groups, 35 patients, 196 family members, and 224 hospital staffs. We extracted their epidemiological information, clinical records, auxiliary examination results, and therapeutic schedules. In summary, all of the 455 contacts were excluded from SARS-CoV-2 infection. And we conclude that the infectivity of some asymptomatic SARS-CoV-2 carriers might be weak. Essentially, the study found that of the 455 people who were exposed to an asymptomatic carrier, none of them contracted coronavirus. Again, this is an important question, a critically important question. And the reason for that is because all of the public policy and political policy surrounding coronavirus is based upon this very simple idea. It's based upon the idea that asymptomatic people can't be out in the public because you might have the virus and you might unknowingly infect someone else. And it is why the economy has been ground to a halt. If we treated it like every other virus and said if you have symptoms, then you have it, so you shouldn't be around other people, that's much easier to deal with. And it doesn't require the complete shutdown of our society. We need clear data on this, and the WHO has got to stop acting as if it is a political organization instead of a medical organization, because so far, throughout this entire crisis, they have not acted as a medical organization at all. Even to the fact that they would make one of their scientists walk back comments based on data because it doesn't fit with their official narrative.